All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, the 92nd Major League Baseball All Star game took place this past Tuesday in the city of Angels with some of the game's best players on display. But unfortunately for me, in my opinion at least, this game has lost some of its luster. We've seen a lack of interest over the years from both fans and players. The ratings were down this year as compared to last year. And for me, one of the biggest takeaways that I see, the All Star game no longer feels special for a variety of reasons. To me, I think analytics has hurt in part. And I say that from the standpoint that it's this positionless baseball, if you will. There are no longer table setters that really excite at the top of a lineup. And I'm talking about, the Ricky Hendersons of the world, the Ozzie Smiths of the world, the Tim Raineses of the world, guys that would go out there and, hit for average, hit close to 300, if not over 300, get on base a lot, steal bases and provide excitement. Then, of course, you had your sluggers in the middle of that lineup as well. And then you had your contact hitters, a la Wade Boggs, Tony Gwynn, players of that caliber. Now, for the most part, we have a league where everybody's hitting about 250, or the majority of the league is hitting about 250, and everybody's simply swinging for the fences. It is definitely taken away from that. But that's just part of it. There are other issues as well. I think that interleague play has taken away from the Midsummer Classic as well. You think about it, about 25 years ago when interleague play, came into fruition, it was exciting because you got to see matchups that you normally would not see, a la Mets, Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, Dodgers, Angels, just to name a few. I mean, there's a lot of classic, rivalry matchups, if you will, Cardinals, Royals. I can keep going on and on and on. Cubs, White Sox, you name it. But at the end of the day, there was a time when the Midsummer Classic was the time to see the stars from both leagues that you never got to see on the same field at the same time. You got to see a George Brett on the field as the same time as a Pete Rose. You got to see, a Tom Seaver try to go out there and strike out a Reggie Jackson. Of course, Tom Seaver did go on to spend some time in the American League with the Chicago White Sox, but just these are just some of the matchups that really intrigue people on that Midsummer Classic day. Also, I think Major League Baseball needs to go back to allowing players to wear their respective team uniform. They've tried to change it up in the past couple of years. They're trying to, feed off of what we've seen with the NBA in regards to their All Star festivities. And honestly, what works for the NBA works for the NBA. But the thing is, what has worked for Major League Baseball for so many years is just the ability for players to go out there and represent their respective club at the Midsummer Classic and show off that either home uniform or the road uniform. I mean, if you want to spice it up a little bit, if you're Major League Baseball, go back to what you were doing in the 1970s. Of course, a lot of teams during that era, they opted for the powder blue uniforms for the road. There were also teams that, opted for other colors, a lot of Pittsburgh Pirates and Oakland Athletics during the 1970s, where they had multiple uniforms. The Pirates, they mixed and matched with white, gold, and black. Of course, the A's had gold, green, gray, and white, just to name a few. Maybe, a lot of these teams do have alternate jerseys. If you wanted to have a team go out there, maybe, and some of the players go out there and don some alternate jerseys, okay, fine. But at the end of the day, this is what we're seeing in the last couple of years is really, not part of baseball. I also think that instead of Tuesday, Major League Baseball needs to tweak things as far as putting their game on the weekend and putting all of their festivities on the weekend. You think about it, the Pro Bowl in the National Football League, which really has lost a lot of its luster, is on a Sunday. Same thing with the NHL All Star game and then the NBA All Star game as well. But then the skills competition for the National Hockey League is a big draw on Saturday evening. The same thing could be said about the NBA skills competition, which of course is highlighted by the slam dunk contest. Why not make all of your skill competitions, if you will, for Major League Baseball on a Saturday? The home run derby is it. But maybe if you wanted to try to throw something else in there, see maybe who's the fastest man, things like that. See who has the best arm throwing from the outfield to home plate, things like that. If you wanted to try to tweak it, these are just thoughts. But the home run derby is your marquee event. Highlight that, have that on a weekend, on a Saturday night as opposed to a Monday night, to try to get more eyes on your product. And then you have your game on Sunday. Also, I think something else that is hurting the game, we're not seeing the best starting pitchers out there as well. A lot of times nowadays, guys are throwing that Saturday or Sunday before, and then automatically they're shut down for the All Star game. And at the end of the day, I mean, you would just go out there and throw an inning. But we've seen so much with pitchers being babied. And analytics, in my opinion, has really taken away from that, because now they're trying to go out there and really monitor pitchers. I mean, 40, 50, 60 years ago, and even going further back, there was nobody there really monitoring pitchers like that, if you will. It was a situation where, hey, these guys went out there and threw. But the bottom line is, you have a league where everybody's trying to throw 100 miles an hour, trying to throw a fastball on every pitch. And this, in my opinion, is what is leading to more pitchers blowing out their arms and having to go for Tommy John surgeries. I mean, you look at some of the great pitchers of yesteryears, your Cy Youngs, your Steve Carltons, your Tom Seavers, your Bob Gibsons. These guys went out there and threw. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the thing is, if you have a strong arm, fine. Everybody is not meant to throw 100 miles an hour. Maybe, you work on throwing 92 or 93, learning how to locate, using your curveball, using your slider and your changeup, and focusing on your secondary pitches as opposed to just trying to do everything with a fastball. And of course, now when pitchers get to that 100 pitch mark, everybody's just looking over their shoulder, or most of them are looking over their shoulder to see who's coming out of the bullpen. And now, of course, if a guy goes 4 innings, it's looked like he's done a great job, where in actuality, he really hasn't. But getting back to the All Star game, guys need to go out there and pitch. You need to see your best players, not substitutes out there. It's one thing if a player is injured, it's another thing where if he is just being shut down by his respective front office. To me, also, I don't think that Major League Baseball does enough to market their best players. And that is something where they bring up the rear, both with the NFL and the NBA, as far as popularity with their product. And this is something that has to change going forward. Also, on top of that, Rob Manfred and the out of touch owners. And I say that because, Rob Manfred obviously is a commissioner of Major League Baseball, but as opposed to listening to the other commissioners of the top sports, and I'm talking about the National Hockey League, I'm talking about the NBA and the NFL, and I'm talking about Gary Bettman, um, Adam Silver, and Roger Goodell, respectfully. With Rob Manfred, it's almost, when he talks, it's almost like an arrogance, like I'm doing you a favor as far as talking, as opposed to listening to what people are saying. And that's a big difference from what we're seeing with Goodell, Silver, and Bettman. And then, of course, obviously, Rob Manfred works for the owners. So he is just, an extension of how the majority of them feel. And the bottom line is, I really think that they're losing touch with their sport. And I know that they've tried to change things up for players here and there. They're allowing them to wear, whatever cleats that they want throughout the season, as opposed to really being quote unquote in uniform. But with that said, even with that, I know it's a minor tweak, but in my opinion, that has taken away from the All Star game as well. Because in yesteryear, there was a time when, that was the only time when you saw players wear cleats that were not quote unquote a part of their respective team uniform. So it's one of those things. This is not a rant. This is not something where you're trying to come down and bash Major League Baseball. This is something where, in my opinion, they need to go out there and try to make things better. And, the Midsummer Classic, once upon a time, was the marquee event, was the showcase event for Major League Baseball. And at this point, the summer theoretically is yours. The NBA season finished up last month, the NHL season finished up last month. Training camps in the NFL are set to open by the end of this month, but this is your time to shine, Major League Baseball. And I really think that you dropped the ball. It's one of those, they've already like watered down the postseason by adding an additional wild card. You really don't need that because you have 162 games to see who are the best teams in each respective league. And then on top of that, I think that they're dropping the ball here with their Midsummer Classic. So let's see if there are going to be changes made for the better heading into Seattle and the 2023 All-Star game. But to me, in my opinion, at least, at Dodger Stadium in the City of Angels at Chavez Ravine, MLB really laid a dud this past Tuesday. Let's see what they have in store for changes. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.